Imagine standing on a hillside in Galilee over 2,000 years ago. The sun casts its golden warmth on the rolling green grass, and a gentle breeze carries the whispers of anticipation from the gathered crowd. Before you is no ordinary man. He is not a king, a general, or a philosopher. Yet, his words will ignite a spiritual revolution that spans millennia. This is Jesus of Nazareth, the Son of God, preparing to deliver one of the most transformative messages in human history, the Sermon on the Mount. The scene is breathtaking. The crowd, a mosaic of faces from all walks of life, gathers with a hunger, not for bread, but for truth. They come with hearts weighed down by Roman oppression, personal struggles, and the hope that this man might hold the key to a better world. Jesus ascends the hillside and begins to speak. His words are simple yet profound, countercultural yet timeless. He begins with the Beatitudes, blessings that redefine the path to true happiness. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. With this opening, Jesus flips the script on what it means to be blessed. In a world that prizes wealth, power, and self-reliance, he declares that spiritual poverty, acknowledging our dependence on God, is the doorway to a life deeply connected with Him. This teaching is a radical departure from the prevailing mindset, offering not material wealth, but the eternal riches of God's kingdom. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted, he continues. Jesus doesn't gloss over the reality of suffering. Instead, he honors those who grieve, promising divine comfort. In a society that often demands we hide our pain, Jesus affirms its value, showing that God meets us in our darkest moments with the light of hope. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Meekness, often misunderstood as weakness, is a quiet strength rooted in humility. It's the ability to respond to injustice, not with retaliation, but with grace. Jesus elevates meekness as a virtue that carries eternal rewards, challenging a world obsessed with dominance and aggression. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Righteousness here isn't just about personal morality. It's a deep, consuming desire for justice and goodness to prevail in the world. This hunger is transformative, compelling us to act for change and to seek a life aligned with God's will. As Jesus speaks, the crowd is captivated. These blessings, so unlike the hollow promises of earthly success, resonate deeply. They offer a vision of a world where mercy, purity, and peace reign, values that stand in stark contrast to the brokenness around them. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Mercy is more than a feeling. It's an active choice to forgive and show compassion, even when we have the right to demand justice. Jesus teaches that as we extend mercy, we experience the boundless mercy of God in return. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. This isn't about outward appearances or rigid rule following. It's about integrity, a heart wholly devoted to God. Jesus calls for an inner purity that transforms how we live and love, promising the reward of seeing God's presence and purpose. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. In a world rife with division and conflict, peacemaking is revolutionary. Jesus urges his followers to bridge divides and bring reconciliation, mirroring the heart of God who seeks to heal and restore. Yet, these blessings are not without cost. Jesus acknowledges that living this way invites opposition. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Following Jesus isn't a path to comfort, it's a call to courage. The kingdom of heaven belongs to those willing to stand firm in their faith, even when it's costly. As the sermon progresses, Jesus addresses not just the heart, but the practicalities of life. He turns to the topic of forgiveness. You have heard it said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. At first, this seems counterintuitive. Does Jesus advocate for passivity? No, he's calling for something far more powerful, breaking the cycle of revenge by responding to evil with goodness. This approach disarms hatred and creates the possibility for transformation. His most challenging command follows, Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This love isn't about condoning wrongs, but choosing to reflect God's unconditional love. Jesus reminds his listeners that God causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. If God shows kindness to all, shouldn't his children do the same? The sermon also delves into the issue of judgment. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Jesus uses vivid imagery, asking, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" This humorous yet piercing metaphor highlights the hypocrisy of focusing on others' flaws while ignoring our own. He calls for humility and introspection, urging us to extend grace rather than condemnation. Anxiety, a timeless human struggle, is another theme. Jesus reassures his audience, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear." He points to the birds and lilies, cared for by God, as evidence of his provision. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, Jesus advises, and all these things will be given to you as well. This teaching is an invitation to trust in God's care and prioritize eternal values over temporary concerns. Jesus also addresses the seductive pull of materialism. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. He challenges his followers to examine their priorities, warning, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The pursuit of wealth, he explains, can become a master that enslaves us, leaving no room for God. The Lord's Prayer, a cornerstone of the sermon, encapsulates Jesus' teachings. Beginning with Our Father in heaven, it establishes a personal, loving relationship with God. It continues with a call for submission. Your kingdom come, your will be done, and trust in daily provision. Give us today our daily bread. It invites forgiveness. Forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors, and seeks divine protection. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. This prayer is both a guide for communication with God and a model for living. As the sermon draws to a close, Jesus leaves his listeners with a powerful image. Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. A life founded on his teachings withstands the storms of life, while one built on shifting sands, ignoring his words, collapses under pressure. The Sermon on the Mount is more than a speech. It's an invitation to a new way of life. It calls us to reject the world's values of greed, vengeance, and self-promotion in favor of humility, mercy, and love. It's not an easy path, but it's a transformative one. Jesus' words resonate across centuries, challenging us to not only hear them, but live them, building our lives on the unshakable foundation of God's truth. In a world hungry for meaning, the Sermon on the Mount remains as revolutionary today as when it was first spoken. It offers hope, a vision of a better world, and the courage to make it a reality.